Gonna get started here in just a second. Just getting everything all set up. All right, so let's just get you caught up here. This game we're going to be streaming today took place yesterday. It was between Steviegets and RLMD. They played yesterday at 8 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, we didn't have anybody available that could do the stream live. I know about 15 people actually watched the game, but, for everybody else who missed it and for consistency's sake, we do want to have this Twitch video up and available. So we're going to do that with a replay link this morning. And then looking at the other games today, we've got No Limit versus Darth Link. Their game 2 is being played at 4 p.m. No Limit won the first game by 8. So again, expect to see a competitive match for game 2. And then at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, so this actually may run into the beginning of this game. We'll try and figure out whether we're just going to switch right over, whether we're going to try and do updates from both, or whether I end up just getting a replay link from this game and doing it afterwards. We're going to play that by ear, kind of see how the first game between Darth Link and No Limit goes. But we'll have Spidey Guy versus Silver Glen, their game 2. Silver Glen won the first game by 6. They're going to play game 2 today at 5. That will pretty much conclude all 7 games here in the bracket, with the exception of a Rebel Spy and Chris Kelly, who are still working out the details of when exactly they are going to play. Obviously, it's got to be this weekend coming up. And that'll be the last match. I think they're going to try and play both games back to back just to get them through and done. And then that would conclude all of round 1. Then we can push the updates out to Gemp for the Shadows of the Empire errata and the Planetary Defenses Shield errata. And then make sure that those are working properly before we start the top 8. But like I said, the game we're going to review today is game 2 between Steviegets and RLMD. So let's get going here. All right. And actually, I just forgot what I just said. RLMD won the first game by 3. Okay, so yeah, so we'll definitely should be a pretty nail biter kind of matchup. When you have things that are that small, there's not a lot of difference between the players. They don't have to make as big moves and things like that, and they can play a little more conservatively and stick to their normal game plan. So Steviegets is going to be playing Darkside Senate. Looks like, my lord, is that legal objective. RLMD is going to be using... He is the Chosen One of the most popular light side mains platforms. He's going to do the standard start with Walkling Insurrection Aim High. And like my father before me, Stevie's going to be running the 12 card start, Surface Defense V. So expect to see him trying to get lots of Senators and his hover cam to the Senate to get extra activation. He starts the free mall site, so he may be running another Tatooine Battleground to deploy mall and move over, and then some type of token space package, Zuckuss or Emperor Shuttle or Maul Sith, probably not Maul Sith Infiltrator if he wants Maul more on the ground. But we already see, looking at Ross's hand, because we did get his replay link, so we do get to see his hand. Sense and Altar already in hand, so that's certainly going to influence things and not what you sometimes you see these in Hitco, but in Throne Room and those types of things, they're not the most common. But if you are trying to be competitive against something like Black Sun, which you may have been anticipating, then loading up with a couple extra senses and altars to cancel their senses and some of their key interrupts isn't a bad idea. It seemed to work out pretty well for some of the guys at the World Championships, running 3 or 4 copies of Sense in their Throne Room and Hitco decks. So he's got 3 options to choose from. He takes Luke's lightsaber, which is always interesting. He may be running 2, but usually taking the lightsaber isn't always the card you want, because you can just pull it with, like my father, Helwisa for a Battle Plains, or a Boss Nash Chamber rather. Already got 1 docking bay, so that's not bad if he can pull the second one, get himself a nice activation jump. Stevie only activated 5 first turn, but he did get Lot Dod and Toonbuck. Toonbuck is one of the key, well, they're both key senators. Lot Dod, as we've covered in other games, is the one that lets you take cards during your control phase. You may search your force pile, take any 1 card there into hand. So he's going to be the guy who's going to facilitate basically pulling everything you want out of your deck. And Toonbuck is the guy who adds to total attrition. Senate majority add once per turn, may add 1 to your total attrition in battle for each character with an ambition agenda at the Galactic Senate. Toonbuck counts himself. He's got ambition. Lot Dod has ambition, so that's 2 right there. There's probably only 1 or 2 other characters that have it, but still, you know, when you draw a 5 or 6 for Battle Destiny, and then you get to add 3 to your attrition, gets you to that 8-9 magic number, which clears a lot of light side characters. Lando, Leia, Solo, Rey, for the most part. Most of those versions of those characters only forfeit for 7. Padme, you know, that kind of stuff. So if you can add 3 to your attrition and get to 8, you clear 2 guys. Or get to 9, you can clear 2 guys. So that's what Darkside Senate's going to be looking to do. I would expect Senate's going to set up and then they're going to react to what their opponent does in this particular matchup. They're going to not want to get too... they're not really going to have too many battlegrounds of their own that they're going to commit to. Probably just like maybe a random space system, or maybe just 1 ground site. And then they'll just react more to what their opponent is doing, which is also usually what Hitco likes to do. Set up 1 drain of their own and then react to their opponent. Lightside pulls the anti-Senate shield, which just stops them from taking cards out of your hand. Well, you have 12 or fewer cards, you can't remove them, except with Monarch, which is what the Senate objective does. He's going to get his other docking bay. Senate objective during the control phase: use 3 force to place up to 2 random cards from opponent's hand into their used pile. So it's pretty good at you know, limiting them taking cards out of their hand. That's a 3 force for 2 force exchange, but it's still really annoying and can really limit what Lightside's able to do. One of the more annoying things on the objective, so that's why there's a shield for it. He's got 1 docking bay from hand. He pulled the other docking bay, gets his Boss Nash Chamber. He's already up to 12 force activation. And he's going to pull Yoda as well to the Jedi Council Chamber. So now he's got to nearly double his opponent's activation at this point. Excuse me. And upon seeing Yoda, Stevie immediately pulls the Oppressive Enforcement Shield, which is the one that if they cancel your card with Censor Altar, the canceled card goes in your used pile instead of your lost pile. Stevie uses a Dark Time to activate 1, just getting a card out of his hand, getting some more force to work with, especially because it gives Lot Dod 1 more card to look at. And Frost pulls Battle Plan. In this situation here, Battle Plan forced him to pay 3 to drain at the Senate. You might wonder why he didn't pull one of the other shields like Simple Tricks and Nonsense. There's nobody at a battleground right now, so Lightside has to be at 1 battleground to cancel force generation and retrieval at non-battlegrounds and stuff. So Simple Tricks would not have done anything in this situation, so he pulls the Battle Plan Shield to make him pay 3 for that drain of 1. It's not going to happen. He puts the Hover Cam out. The Hover Cam gives him 3 extra force activation while he has the Senate majority, which he will. And then he'll drop Ticks and then move to draw phase. Ticks, while in a Senate majority, your force generation is +2 at battlegrounds you control, and Honor of the Jedi is suspended. And during your deploy phase, you can draw the bottom card of your force pile into hand. So similar mechanic to Rey, where he gets to draw the bottom card of his force pile, but it's only during your deploy phase. So expect to see him use Lot Dod to take whatever card he wants, and then probably use Ticks to just get another card into hand, hoping to find a second piece of the puzzle. He did also get his Kashyyyk system out. So I would expect, like we said, we'll see him set up here in space and then react to what his opponent does on the ground. Light side here is working with a decent amount of force, and they just tunnel visioned and took a card. It looks like they took Luke. And we'll probably see Luke go over here. This is the site that while Skywalker here, Prophecy of the Force may not relocate from here. So he's going to get Luke. He's going to pull. So he did run 2 sabers. Okay, so he's going to pull the second saber, get the low destiny out of the deck. When he force drains here next turn, this Prophecy of the Force card, which is basically a Presence of the Force because it adds an icon, will move to that location. I'm going to hold on here for a second because we got a little bit of stuff going on. So like I said, so that would move over here, and then it would not move from here because the Skywalker's there. So this would become a drain of 3, 1 plus the extra 1 from Prophecy and the lightsaber, making it 3. Ross was attempting to alter the hover cam because it's not immune to alter. Steve responded by playing Sense from hand to try and cancel the alter, and now Ross is playing the Sense he had in his hand to sense the Sense. He's successful. Because Oppressive was played, the Sense will go used. And now he's going to try him. He's got a second Sense in hand that he'll use to cancel the alter. So the hover cam will live to see another day. Very important. He'd be at a terrible activation disadvantage without it. Looks like he had 2 alters though. So that's the one that was lost. He then uses Yoda's text and goes and pulls another alter right back out. And he also pulls the Wise Advice Shield. Same thing as Oppressive Enforcement. Whenever cards cancel with Sense or Alter, it's going to go to the used pile instead of the lost pile. So I guess he's going to try again, targeting Yoda to cancel the hover cam. Does Stevie have a third Sense to cancel it? He does not. Alright, so the hover cam is going to get canceled. That's going to be problematic for Steve. As we said, it's going to drop his force activation all the way back down to 7. So it's 13 to 7 now. He's nearly getting doubled up. With 7 force, it's going to be pretty hard for him to react to Luke. I mean, it's enough for one character. Maul with lightsaber and battle. And then Ross tries to use the objectives text during the draw phase. During your draw phase, may retrieve any one card. Opponent may stack a card from hand on I Feel the Conflict to place that card out of play instead. Ross tried to retrieve the alter, so that way when Steve gets the hover cam back, he can cancel it again. And this time, Steve stacked a card from hand, stacked another copy of Lot Dod that he doesn't really need to prevent that retrieval. And Ross is just going to draw a few cards now. Picking up a few key characters. He's got a Tanev. Now he's got a couple of pilots to go with it. Rey, Lando. Could get around Zuckuss' ability. Gets multiple battle destiny. And he'll put a card back with Like My Father in his force pile because Luke's out of battleground. He puts the second Lando back. And Steve's going to squabble at the end of the turn This one lets you take senators into hand from reserve deck, or once per game, you can retrieve for each senator at the Galactic Senate. It doesn't require a destiny draw the way like Abyss and Ornament or All Wings report in do. It's just retrieve for the number of guys there. Steve also plays a Masterful Move combo to get the Phantom Menace out of his deck. He activates 7 and fishes out a card with Lot Dodd, gets the bridge, so that's going to help get him 2 more activation here. And then he's just basically just going to draw and eat this drain for a turn. Save himself a couple of force. I know it's a little early for a lot of you guys, so I appreciate any of you guys that are in the chat watching right now. Try and move the camera to the other side because it looks like we're going to be blocking his hand a little bit now that they're drawing pretty big. If he thins out his hand a little bit, I can just move this up here because we can't see his hand. And he doesn't have any effects on table. So now I'm in the top corner. I'm just bouncing around like that little DVD logo that used to pop up as the screensaver. So he's going to space. There's the Tanev. There's Ray. Doesn't have enough force for a second character aboard that. He takes the sense. He could have grabbed Solo or Lieutenant Blount. Solo might not have been a bad choice because with Ray, they can't afford to put him down. Actually, if he had taken Solo, he had 3 force left. He could have put Solo with Ray because he could have dropped a card with Like My Father with Luke, giving him 4, paid 4, deployed Solo there. So he would have had plenty of ability to battle Destiny between Solo, Ray, and then obviously the ability to play interrupts from your lost pile like this altar should the hover cam come back out. That might have been a pretty solid move, and it looks like he opted to take the sense instead. Not really sure what he's concerned about sensing, but I mean, he's just playing what anticipating what he thinks his opponent's going to do. He's going to try and retrieve the altar again. And Steve's going to let him have it this time. He also hasn't pulled the secret plan shield or anything yet to make him actually pay for that retrieval. It's curious. He lot dodds a card, gets the hover cam out, and then ticks a card as well. So now he's got a decent amount of force. He's up to back up to 13 activation. He's got 11 active, a Phantom Menace. There's a Maul, as expected. We'll probably get a barrier for him. Barrier, sorry about the mess, seems likely. And now we're going to get into another Sense War. Dark side plays Sense, light side plays Sense to cancel it. They draw a Jedi Luke, but that's still good enough to be under Yoda's limit here. So the barrier's going to stick. Unless Darkseid has a second copy of Sense. Nope. So Maul's going to get stuck there. Now we'll have to find out if I get Orange Ta free down. What does this guy do? Oh, this guy has the Mon Mothma like text, or she has his text rather. Senate majority once per turn, take your just drawn battle destiny into hand, and then you can actually put this guy back if you want during their deploy phase. You can put him back in your deck. Number of cards in their force pile. So I guess you have to wait to the end of their deploy phase after they've pretty much have spent all their force, and then you can cycle him back. Destiny 4, who becomes a 6 with the objective. So if you were setting something up at the end of their turn, you could kind of track it around. Doesn't have to pay to drain now because he satisfied battle plan. Pitches expand the Empire from hand. I guess he's not expecting his opponent to play the battle planes, or he It just knows his opponent has a number of copies of Altar, so Expand the Empire wouldn't help anyway. Expand the Empire would be in here to go on the Boss Nash Chamber, because the game text on here says opponent may not force drain here, immune to revolution. So you put it on Boss Nash Chamber, it expands that game text to the adjacent locations, which would be the Naboo battle planes. So therefore, then the text on the battle planes becomes opponent may not force drain here. So you take away their second battleground location, and save yourself a drain of 2 or 3 a turn without having to interact with them at all. You just shut it down. More dark side decks are starting to play this card and rotate it back in, because more light side decks have been throne room hit go lately, and that's their battleground situation. You know, they're playing 4 copies of Wisa to pull the battle planes in the Boss Nash Chamber, and that's the ground location they're trying to stack up to get a consistent drain in, while they then go interact with you. So that's what they are trying to do, and Expand the Empire is a good counter for that. There's the sorry about the mess as we expected. No force field from Darkside. Maul is defense value 8 because of Phantom Menace. He draws a 2, but he can Jedi Lev that character. And we'll see if he gets somebody better for the second draw. He gets Rescue. Alright, so there's a total of 10. That will beat Maul. And a Dark Time would not help in that situation. So Maul's going to be hit and lost, and then Lightside's going to get the drain. They also flip their objective at the same time. Lost in the Wilderness would be huge here, because Lightside's out of shield pulls. But alas, Darkside does not have it, or play it probably, but Lightside then gets to peek. They get to peek at the top cards of the reserve deck and take one into hand for the number of battlegrounds that they occupy. So they got 2 battlegrounds in this situation. So we had the option between taking Leia and taking Rescue in the Clouds. He takes Rescue in the Clouds, which will let him get a shot at peeking at some other cards on top of his deck. And Steve's seen enough of that card and is going to grab it. Barrier Sense, Run, Luke, Run. This time he takes the barrier. Makes sense. There's really nowhere to Run, Luke, Run. Doesn't really have much use here because there's nowhere to for Luke to move to in this situation. And Sense, he's probably got a few more of them floating around, so doesn't necessarily need to take that right now. He's more likely to draw into one, so getting another barrier is pretty safe to make sure Luke sticks around longer. He adds Lando as a second pilot on the Tantive, and then he puts Chewie down with Luke. That's a bold move. And then he's going to retrieve the sorry about the mess, which Steve just lets him have. Again, still doesn't pull secret plans. He's just letting him retrieve a card every turn for free. Interesting. So we don't see the battle planes. It looks like he's playing the Cloud City lower corridor. It's an interior 1-2 location. It's a mobile location, which then triggers with the extra game text on the Rescue in the Clouds here, targeting non-undercover. You can cancel weapon destinies or things like that, targeting the ability or defense value of your mid-range characters at a system or mobile location. So this being a mobile location, he could protect people like Han, Rey, etc. So Chewie, I said, was a risky play because you are beaten, or like a sniper or something like that. If you were to deploy another copy of Maul and hit Luke, or Maul Dr. E and hit Luke. You know, he could take Luke out, and then Chewie's just kind of sitting here by himself. He does have a Hoojix in hand, so it's not that big of a risk, but it's still an awkward play. But then again, you look at the rest of his hand here, and it doesn't seem so bad now that I think about it. He's got Clash to help protect him against something like that. He also has a Jedi's Concentration, which would prevent weapons, lightsabers from being used, but not blasters. So he could cancel the weapons from the lightsaber, and then Chewie could still shoot. And here comes Mr. Maul back again. I thought he just had 3 force. Did he draw a card with... Oh, he paid one for Lando. Dirt. Alright, so he's going to barrier. So now Clash is now out. But Maul's barriered again. This game certainly seems to be going in Ross's favor so far. With, he's got the right counters, it seems like, at the right times, between having multiple barriers, having the senses. Getting another copy, sorry about the mess. Or if that's the one he retrieved that he just happened to shuffle through, that's pretty fortuitous timing to get it back into hand. So we'll get a drain of 2 in space. Steve pitches Blizzard 4 and a copy of Vader off the top. And here comes that sorry about the mess again. Going after Maul a second time. That's just probably going to hit. Five, 3. That's an 8. That'll hit Maul because there's no Phantom Menace on the table this time around. And Darth Maul number 2 is now dead. He's going to play a shield with perimeter scan. Only Jedi carry that weapon. It's one that stops weapon levitation. Having Luke's lightsaber stolen here would be pretty bad. And we'll see what characters light side wants to commit. They're going to add Obi to this location as well. I figured maybe they would have just thrown down someone like Blount. Just someone cheap who could soak up a little, battle destiny attrition. But it looks like he wanted somebody with a little higher forfeit. Darkside's very likely to draw, 4 or 5, and then they're going to add a couple to it, which will probably beat Chewie's forfeit of 6. So I'll make sure they have somebody else, I guess, that they can keep Luke around with. Darkseid does have the option here to go get a Force Lightning or a Force Push, but they do not. So either he's not playing either of them or just didn't feel like getting it out. Or might already have it in his hand. Chewie's going to shoot Dooku. Alright. 3 weapons. They're all... That's a miss. I was going to say, he's got 3 weapons. They all make forfeit 0. So he's going to take a couple shots here until he hits Dooku. And unless the Destiny in his deck is terrible, expect to see Dooku get hit. Darkseid does luckily have I Have You Now, which goes through. No copy of Hear Me Baby or Sense to cancel it this time around. So that's going to add 2 Battle Destiny for Darkseid. Should help close the gap on this power differential here. They were down 12. Dooku's hit and forfeit 0. Luke's going to add 1 to Lightside's total Battle Destiny. So essentially they're down 13. So getting 2 extra Destiny to close that gap would be pretty good. However, it looks like Lightside's going to opt to just get out of the battle now. They're going to clash Dooku. That excludes him from the battle. since he was the only character, the battle now ends, and because Dooku is hit, he has to be lost, because the battle's over. All hit characters have to be lost. It's an interesting play. Obviously, he's trying to do what he can to protect his site and keep Luke around. And, protect his drain and not take, any high destinies or things like that. If you were to draw, he's getting 3 destiny. If you were to draw, say, a couple of 5s and a 4 and have like 12 or 13, and then add to the attrition, he could actually end up clearing, Luke and Obi, or Luke and Chewie instead of Obi and Chewie, or possibly if you were to draw even really high, get all 3 characters, because Luke would be 9, or Luke and Obi, and then Chewie's sitting here by himself, which he definitely doesn't want. So he'd have to lose everybody. So he's going to play the safe route. He's ahead, in terms of board position and control. So he's going to go ahead and just clear the site out. He's taken Dooku out. He's taken out 2 Mauls. Steve's got 4 cards in hand. He already burned an I Have You Now. I like this play by Ross. I think it's a good move. I think it's, protects him from taking any backlash. Maybe it doesn't get the big force swing of like a beatdown. But if Steve's got a Gick in those 4 cards, he wasn't getting that anyway. So Ross tries to retrieve. Sorry about the mess again. And Steve's going to cancel it this time by stacking a Squabble from hand, putting him down to 3 cards in hand now. And then it looks like Ross will just go ahead and draw a few and then put a card back with Luke and pay his maintenance on Lando. So Ross has got they're pretty even in terms of total life force right now. Steve's got 33. Ross is about the same, 22, 34. So they're both in a pretty even position in terms of total life force. But just looking at board control, got a good solid ground site, got a good solid space system. Definitely has a card, hand advantage, a card advantage there. So that's a solid play there with the clash to protect that advantage. But Steve looks like he finally found some space stuff to go counter. We've got the Emperor's shuttle, so here comes the Emperor, and we'll probably see Grand Moff Tarkin following in just a second here. Yep. It's a very strong 3-card combo here. It's only 4 power, but it's completely immune to attrition, and it gets 3 battle destiny draws. Again, he doesn't pull secret plans. Still, Ross gets the free retrieval with Lando and gets the Clash of Sabers back. I think it's the 3rd or 4th card he's retrieved now without paying for. I don't know how much of a difference in the grand scheme of thing it makes, but ooh. Darkside's first destiny draw is the Cantina, so they are playing the Cantina for their ground site to deploy Maul to and move over for free. But Tarkin luckily has this text here that says, during battle, if you just drew destiny less than the number of Imperials here, you can cancel and redraw that. So there's 2 Imperials there. So he's going to use his once per battle action and redraw that 0. And this could be the move that that Darkseid needs to get back into this game here. First one's a 5, Tarkin's a 3, because he's Destiny +2 when drawn for battle or weapon destiny. And a 7 there, so that's 15. He takes the Phantom Menace into hand. He'll use Toonbuck to add to attrition, giving him 17 total attrition, which is going to clear all 3 cards from this location. He really only needed Rey and Lando cover 14, so the 7 was a little bit of overkill, but that also gave them quite a bit of additional power. light side's 2 destinies are 9, plus 1 from Ray is a 10. So light side ends up losing the battle by 1, even though they started with more power. That third destiny draw was pretty big. Drawing the 7 was pretty big. So dark side loses nothing in this battle, and light side loses Ray, Lando, and the Tantive. And now they're going to be paying to drain, which should slow them down a little bit. Dark side's going to have a drain of their own that they can do to inflict some damage on light side. And now he's going to pull Coward. Okay, so this explains probably what his thought process was, why Steve hadn't pulled Secret Plans earlier, because his plan was basically to kick him off one of the 2 battlegrounds that's on the table, and then pull Coward and shut down all the retrieval simultaneously. And Ross will play Perimeter Scan to get simple tricks. It's the light side version of Coward. Since neither of them are at 2 battlegrounds, it means he will not be able to drain in the Senate, and it also means that he will not be able to squabble to retrieve for his senators, which would be very helpful for Darkseid to do pretty soon. Try and get some of those characters back that they've lost, but in the meantime, they're going to get drained for 3 at the Ewok Village. They lose surface defense, a copy of a Dark Time off the top of the deck, and they top deck Force Field as well. They can use the objective in Peak, but he just basically passes right to his draw phase, draws 1 card, and says go. I guess Ross is just content staying at 12 cards because he wants to stay under the limit for the shield. And then I guess we'll have to wait and see what he wants to do next. You know, he's ahead. You know, he's got 23 to 22, but he's got more cards in hand, so he's got like a 7 or 8 force advantage right now. And he's doing more damage to his opponent 3 to 2 at this point. So he could just sit back and lean on that advantage for a little bit and wait for his opponent to change the status quo. Steve's going to use Lot Dodd at the start, after activating. Gets out his Cantina. Okay. So now he's got his second battleground and his battleground site to get to. So expect to see him pile a couple of characters here. Maybe this is where Maul number 3 is going to go with that Phantom Menace that he took earlier, and just try and hang out in the Cantina. Yep, there's Maul number 3. We'll get a Phantom Menace and a Dr. E. He doesn't deploy the Phantom Menace, though. I could have sworn he took that into hand. Oh, hang on just 1 second. so Ross is just going to do the same thing again, just pay to drain. Oh, yeah, 2 hover cams. Steve loses a hover cam, Toonbuck, and Edsel off the top. Now Lightside's going to deploy Ray, a non-Jedi character, so the Phantom Menace wouldn't help anyway against her. He's going to swing at Corran Horn. I'm sorry, he's going to swing at Dr. E, which is smart. He's got 2 battlegrounds now, so he can retrieve for hitting Dr. E. He can get his Tantive back. And he also takes out the more annoying character. Dr. E will work obviously with any characters with lightsabers or weapons. He's probably running pretty thin on mauls at this point. Steve swings at Ray and crushes her. And we'll see if he opts to do the operation. I would, and he does as well. Clear the site, end the battle. Probably not going to get overflow anyway. Your opponent wouldn't initiate a battle like that if they didn't have something like a Hujix in hand. Oh, but he does resilience. So Ray comes back to hand. Dr. E dies. Lightside will get a drain out of this. They are going to pull secret plans now, finally, to make him start paying for all that retrieval. But Steve's getting down to the end here. He's only got 17 left down compared to his opponent, who's still he's got 23 down and 12 in hand. So he's got some. He's not paying a drain right now, which is certainly an advantage. And curiously enough, Ross throws away his other sight. I guess he's just going to continue to just press the Cantina and try and just battle that. He doesn't want to get into a race situation, I guess, because he easily could just throw like Ray and somebody down at that site and then just, pay to drain in both spots, 3-2 to 2-2. But and just lean on his advantage, the fact that he's ahead. But so drain the Cantina for 2, pitches the site and Blount from hand. Top decks to the drain in space, a sense and a run Luke run, and then because 2 battlegrounds are now occupied, he does get the drain in the Senate, and he top decks the perimeter scan as well. So we're going to get a Lot Dodd pull, we're going to get a Tix pull. Let's see if he's got more characters to back up Maul. He does. He finds Sidious. So really just wants to just try and solidify his drains here. He adds Yeb Yeb. Interestingly enough, he puts Yeb Yeb there. Yeb Yeb doesn't have any of the matching agendas. When he's in a Senate majority, peek at top card of opponent's reserve deck, then you can lose 1 to make it lost or just put it back. I guess he just wanted an extra characters, maybe some extra forfeit, so he wouldn't have to lose Maul if Lightside came down with a couple of guys. Maybe just giving them an easier target to swing at so that they don't try and swing at Maul. As opposed to having 1 more senator in the Senate that he could then try and retrieve with Squabble. Oh. Looks like Ross is going to activate it all. He'll pay to drain over at the Ewok village again to just keep continuing to put that pressure. Steve throws away Coruscant Guard, a Boba Fett in ship, and an Accelerate. All cards aren't really going to be helpful at this point in the game. The shuttle's pretty much going to be solid in space, and light side has made no indication that they're going to even consider contesting the Senate, so the Coruscant card's pretty useless. They're going to drop Rey. They're going to fish out a card with that, and then pitch Walkling and retrieve a force to get perimeter scan back. He adds Jar Jar, interestingly enough, to this pile of guys over here at the Ewok village. Jar Jar would have made a nice addition to go with Rey. Jar Jar could take out Yeb Yeb, and then Rey could then hit one of these guys and hit Sidious and possibly clear the whole site. But he adds Jar Jar for additional backup to a location that didn't really need it. Then he adds Leia to the Jedi Council chamber. I guess so Leia can start canceling the drain at the Senate by retrieving cards. He also would have had the option, he could have put Leia here and then moved over to the 2-0, and Leia could have canceled the drain in the cantina for a turn or two. But Dark Side obviously could deploy to this site in battle. It's harder for them to do anything here. So she'll shut this drain down for at least 2 turns and net 2 life force back, further just extending light side's lead, which seems like the right play at this time of this stage of the game. Not much left for dark side to do. They are going to activate and not even swing at her. Light side's going to pitch a fly casual and a Jedi Luke from hand. So it looks like they've pretty much given up on space at this point, it would seem. Dark side does play the Squabble, and they're going to pay 4 and retrieve 4 cards. First they got to pay 2 to stack it, and then they got to spend 4 to retrieve, so it's going to cost them 6. To do that, but they do get 4 cards back, which is pretty critical for them at this time to extend the game a little bit further, give them some more life force to work with. But it does only leave them with 1 force available in reserve deck if they decided to battle Rey here. And light side could easily have another copy of a Jedi's Resilience or something. Rey's going to swing at Yeb Yeb, what we were talking about earlier. It's a nice easy target. It's going to let them retrieve a force. So they'll get the Jedi Luke back. So again, light side just finding ways to just get cards back one at a time to keep extending the game and extending their card advantage. Pays 1 and he retrieves a Jedi Luke. And then we'll go to Battle Destinies. Light side's only down 8 and Rey covers 7 forfeit, so light side may not even need to use their Hoojiks in this situation, with dark side not being able to swing at her. And draws a 4. So it's 18 to 9. She covers 7, so you could lose Rey in any 2 cards, which seems like a much more realistic strategy than using a Hoojiks. I mean, you're losing 1 extra card to still have your safety net. You could easily throw away the lightsaber and a Wisa or something from hand, or another Jedi Luke from hand. He loses the Jedi's concentration and the extra lightsaber. Darkside will play Turn It Off to get an extra shield. They go for code clearance this time to try and shut down some of those little retrievals if they use something like Jedi Levitation, which I don't anticipate Lightside would be doing anytime soon, but you never know. Looking at Ross's hand here, it's probably going to be Jin or so to the Cantina. He'll pay to drain, and then he'll deploy Jin to the Cantina to block that drain. And just keep pushing his advantage here. He's got Leia negating this drain for at least 2 turns. And gaining him a life force in the process. So it's going to be 4 turns before it's even. So 5 turns really before Darkside actually gains anything by draining here. They've just blocked this drain here, and there probably aren't too many cards that Darkside would have to be able to use to remove her from the situation. We haven't seen any Force Lightnings yet. Dooku's already dead. We haven't seen any type of snipers, so really maybe somebody like, Yasain Assard or something to break her cover. Otherwise, she's probably just going to sit there the rest of the game, and then it's going to be a drain of 2 in space versus a drain of 3 on the ground, and Ross is already still ahead on life force. They both have 13 down, but he's got an 8-card advantage in hand, so he's got plenty of cards to lose and plenty of used interrupts that he could easily cycle back. Well, weapon firepower does kick in, so Darkside does get to retrieve a card. They retrieved an Emperor off the top. And Ross is going to interrupt Steve's activation to play the Bith Shuffle, shuffling his reserve deck, so now he won't be able to track anything. He really just want to put a card back, but if you can do it at the same time as messing with your opponent's knowledge, that's always a good thing too. Steve uses objective to check, finds a 3 in the Coruscant Guard, just kind of hanging out there, so the 3 is not going to do a whole lot. Ross plays the perimeter scan to pull a shield and opts for Goldenrod. Not sure what else is free at this point that he would be worried about that for. Maybe just picking any shield because, again, he didn't really care. He just wanted to put a card back. It does get drained here. Leia does retrieve and put Luke's lightsaber on top of the reserve deck. Now he'll drain here. He'll just top deck the lightsaber, I would expect, and then lose a card from hand. Yeah. Throws away a blaster deflection. One of the used interrupts he can't realistically put back. Hey, U-3PO finally makes an appearance. That would explain the Jar Jar. He was waiting on U-3PO to block a drain. That makes more sense putting Jar Jar there because now he's got a clear way to get rid of him with the Wisa. So that's a good play by Ross. Didn't see it, wasn't expecting it, but that makes perfect sense now that obviously you see that. I mean, we do know he does have Corn Horn floating in his deck somewhere. Wow. He deploys, so he uses the Wisa to kill U-3PO, and Steve's response is then to deploy Arica undercover here as well. But at the start of his turn, he's just going to play another. Wisa's unique, so he couldn't play it last turn. But it's just target an opponent's undercover spy with your Gungan. Target is lost. So he takes her out as well. And that should pretty much seal the deal for him. If Steve could have blocked this drain down for a turn or two, and then he draws Corn Horn. Or he's got Corn Horn in hand as well. So he had options to get rid of him. But if Steve could have blocked this drain for a couple of turns and let this drain in space catch up, he might have still had a way back into this game. But he no longer seems to have an out. There's too many guys here to battle through this. He doesn't have a way to kill Jin. So all he can do, and since he lost the first game by 3, he actually would need to win the game. It's not even like he just needs to whittle his opponent down to enough life force remaining. Um, maybe he could, if he could maybe grind the game to 3 or 4 cards and then, go to lost pile counts or something. But yeah, in this situation, it doesn't seem like he's got any outs left. So Ross will just keep draining for 3. Steve will just keep draining for 2. So looks like we'll be seeing Ross advancing to the top 8. We'll get that bracket updated in just a minute. Steve top decks, throws away the Gick, and then loses Turn It Off and the Emperor from his force pile. He opts to use 5 force to put Ornn Ta free back, since he's not really doing a whole lot. Puts 1 more card back in his deck. Drains for 2 at Kashyyyk. Ross just throws away characters at this point. Hangs on to Awisa in case there's a 3rd undercover spy. And he'll use Leia's 2nd usage to put Corran Horn on top of his deck to cancel the drain at the Senate. Steve's going to check his force pile. He knows, and obviously these are all the cards he's got left to work with here. And he's just going to start drawing. Oh, he doesn't draw all of them though. I wasn't sure if he was just going to draw up and end the game or what he was going to do here, but nope. He's going to play it out a little longer. Nah, never mind. I realize it's just kind of fruitless at this point to play it out. Like I said, it's 14 to 6 life force counts. They both have 4 cards in hand. Light side's going to be able to continue to pay for their drains for another couple of turns and run dark side out of cards long before dark side would be able to do any of it back. So Steve go ahead and concedes. Ross will be your victor and advance to the 2nd round, the Elite 8 of the OCS playoffs. We will be back later at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is just under 6 hours from now. Thank you guys very much for watching this morning. And like I said, we'll be having our next match at 4 o'clock between No Limit and Darth Link, which No Limit won the first game by 8. So should be an interesting game, and looking forward to casting that one. And I'll see you guys in about 6 hours. Thanks for watching, and have a great morning.